Welcome to Chattanooga, everybody.
Hey, welcome aboard. Today is October 15th. The year is 2020, and this is the Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 417.
I was afraid you're going to forget that.
So it's been 30 seconds. You know, my memory's fading as I turn 40, but it is episode 417. We appreciate you tuning in. If it's your first time, thank you. We appreciate you giving us the opportunity. We know there's a lot of options out there in the podcast universe, and your time is valuable. We cover all things triathlon and all things life. We will occasionally get into the technical aspects of the sport, training, philosophy, how we think you should approach training from our own personal perspective and experiences, give race recaps, race previews, occasionally have on a guest, and then oftentimes we'll also pop into our closed group, which if you want to search that, it's on Facebook. It's Crushing Iron Group. Answer a quick question, we will let you in. A lot of great people in there. They give a lot of great feedback and responses, a lot of great wisdom, everyone from beginners to Ironman champions. So hop in there if you want, be a part of the conversation. And as the year is going to end on a high note, I believe, with races all over happening, major races as well. So that's a good thing. But that's what we do. Mike and I we're not professionals. We're not experts. We're just experienced in life and in triathlon. I've been doing it for 15, 20 years. Mike's been doing it for 8 to 10. So we've been at it.
50 years.
50 years. Yeah, that's right. You're well. I mean, life, you've been at it for like 60, but we won't go there. But we've been there, and it's our I guess our only agenda is to keep you happy and healthy, and share our experiences and let you take those the way, any way you want to, and apply them to your life in your own way. It's not a cut and paste format. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's training is different. Everyone's goals are different. And we don't want you to get caught up in the expectations that so many people do, and trying to copy and paste other people's hours per week, or their the pressures they put on themselves to be successful, and what the measure of success really is up to you. And it can be so many great things in sport, and maybe it's one of the things I want to talk about today as well, that I've been talking about frequently with athletes. But that's what we do. We don't have any sponsors, we don't have any ads. It's just Mike and I sitting back chatting, having an open and honest discussion. Hopefully you can take something positive from it and apply it to your daily life.
I mentioned my age a little bit there, and
you did.
You said we don't want to go there, but I think we do want to go there. Yeah. I was thinking about this podcast and sort of what we're all about, and I'm kind of the guy that's in his 50s that kind of got back in shape later in life and sort of turned things around, and you're a guy who's gone through some tough times as well, and it's sort of about the kind of the turnaround or the comeback in a lot of ways, and I think that's an important piece of the puzzle for a lot of people, and I think it's almost worth talking about. I'm not saying we got to go into that today, but I've just been kind of more.
So you want to talk about how old we are?
I want to talk about my.
I don't know if that's really my wheelhouse for today, but
No. I'm just. You're younger than me. That's the thing too, right? You're quite a bit younger. Sure. You're quite a bit younger, and you've got a lot of more vinegar in your step, or whatever they say.
I think they call it pep in your step, but we could go with vinegar.
There's some saying around vinegar, but he's full of.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah, I got that one.
But anyway, I just want to point that out in case some people are new to listening and stuff like that. There's a little age gap between us.
There's quite an age discrepancy. But to be fair, if you've never met or seen Mike, he does not look his age. He looks significantly younger. So when we hang out around places, people don't think that, we have a 45-year gap. People think we're maybe 10 years, because I don't know if that says about me that I look like I'm 50 and we're pretty much the same age. I should probably look into that. Maybe trying to take better care of myself. But yeah, there is. Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I don't know if it's a topic for a whole podcast, but it's definitely, it should be noted that, we come from very, very, very different backgrounds. Like we are very much the same in a lot of ways with the way that we think about things and training, and but the way our backgrounds are all different. You came from a cycling, mountain biking. You played baseball. I grew up swimming, played tennis. I got in the sport a lot earlier than you did. Just not in life, but in terms of how long I've been in the sport, and we see eye to eye on a lot of things, but you do things, a little bit differently. And so it's definitely, an experience thing, a coach thing, and also, overall development thing as an athlete. So it gives a good yin and yang, and there's good, I think, experience in both that. And, you've had, while I might be only 40, there's probably like a 4 or 5 year span there where I probably could have counted each year as like 3, which is like the
dog years.
Dog years, man. It's like why this year has been hard, but not like I'm like this isn't even in my top 5 hardest years. But yeah, it's what we do. And one of the things I was kind of alluding to when I was in the open was I've been having this discussion. I had this discussion with Ryan Grubb, who came in town last week for the 70.3 weekend, and we were talking about, and then again yesterday with Sean Van Horn. He and his wife Kylie Van Horn are both here to help us out with our trail camp that starts here in Chattanooga. It starts tonight, and we'll be kicking off at dinner tonight, and then we'll be hitting the trails Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. They both flew in from Colorado, both very, very experienced. Kylie is the owner of Fly Nutrition, who we work a lot with. If you're interested in anything that has to do with nutrition, or looking for a meal planning, or just anything help with any overall help with fueling and nutrition, please look her up. She's outstanding. I've been working with her for probably 24, 25 weeks. And the reason I know that is because that's what the title of my meal plan is every week. That's how I can keep track of how many weeks I've been working with her. And Sean is an incredibly talented and humble, I think I'm comfortable to say elite trail runner. He actually just recently did the Nolan's 14. I think he set like the second fastest known time, which was you summit 14 14ers, and he did it in less than 46 hours. So 14ers.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
So like he summited 14,000 feet climbs in 46 hours, which is not something I have any interest in doing, period. I see you smirking like, I think I could do that. I know that smirk on your face.
I sort of entertain those things for a few minutes, and then I'm like, I used to talk about that a lot when I would do my workouts, and like, I know I could finish this workout. That's good enough for me. I just walk away. And I'm not sure that's the right strategy, but I mean, there is something to be said for belief systems in everything we do. It's just like
the mind is the most powerful thing that we have. It's, it's not, it's the most powerful muscle we have. I don't know if it's considered a muscle, obviously, but yeah. So in like, to grasp what he actually did, he climbed 43,000 feet in 92 miles in 45 hours, which. Yeah, I think I could. No, I'm good. I think I'll pass.
I don't think I could do that, actually, and I don't think I'd want to.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to either. But so I was chatting with him yesterday as we were marking some of the trails about like a couple things. One is how great endurance sports is and the opportunities it gives so many different types of athletes, regardless of ability, performance, wants, and then also age. And the reason we got talking about that, I was running with Ryan. We were talking about, our spouses and partners and people that you're friends with. And that the great thing about endurance sports is that you can either look to go farther and not get faster and still accomplish a new feat, or you can stick with the same distance or shorter and go with faster as your objective, to reach your performance game. You can have, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about the sport and all endurance sports is that in the same race, you could have 2,000 people, and regardless if they are the people that finish the first 50 people or the last 50 people. The first 50 are looking to complete the distance in just as quickly as they possibly can. They're looking for straight performance or qualification or to just push themselves to the limit. And it's all about speed and improving time. And that's how they judge themselves on how the day went and what their goals are and what they want to, get out of it and where they want to go next. And then if you, cut out the middle and then go to the back 50 people, they're just as pumped and they're just as elated to simply have been able to cover the distance. Yeah. And I think that you also have like everybody in between, but it is endurance sports provides so many wonderful opportunities, which is why I think so many people are gravitating to it, to find a way to be successful, because there is a lot of gray in endurance sports. And we've talked about that a lot. Everything else in life tries to be black and white, where it's pass or fail, success or not. But you can break down a race or an event that you do and think like, I still covered the distance. Like I can't believe that I A, went that fast today, or B, I traveled this far with my own body. And it's like, it really is a great, I think, eye-opening experience to get into and push yourself to those boundaries. But it also lends to the conversation that Sean and I had yesterday on the trail, which was everyone jumps to the accolades that you might get for the longer things. So like if you that's a social media, it's a social media thing, right? It's like you go out and you tell somebody, well, I completed an Ironman, and they're like in total awe of what you're able to, they still have no idea what you did. They're like, so is that all on the same day? Did you run? Did you bike? Is it just a marathon? Did you do it on that island in Hawaii? Are you going to be on NBC? That's what they think Ironman is. They think it's this incredible feat. And it is. And then the same person could say, I just did an Olympic distance triathlon and I did it in under 2 hours, which is incredibly fast. And they're like, oh, that's fine. That's kind of cool. Yeah. So we all push ourselves. And he was talking about how it's, he's probably actually better at shorter distance races, but he finds himself gravitating more towards like the longer things, because that's where, and you see, that's where like the praise comes from everyone else, is like, I can't believe you covered the distance. It's no longer really about how fast you covered. It's about how long you can go. And that's why also you see so many athletes and triathletes especially that go from, I think yourself included, I'm going to go into this sport. I'll do a sprint. And then, you know what? I'm going to do an Ironman my very first year. Like, I want to go big. And then after that, it's like, well, what do you have? What do you have left? Maybe I got to do ultra, and I can't do one this year. I got to go like 2 or 3. And I just think it's an interesting topic in just how appetizing it really is in endurance sports to get caught up in the long, and not the development that usually is needed to be the best long course athlete you can be in doing shorter distances.
Yeah, it is a great one. I think, I was talking to one of our athletes yesterday about, we're both now officially signed up for Chattanooga full next year.
Is this Phil Jones?
Yeah, it was Phil.
PJ.
Phil Jones Triathlon. He's got a great blog.
PJT.
And, so he was like, well, because we were talking about getting another guy, Mark, involved, and he said he wasn't doing any fulls next year, but so we were trying to figure out a 70.3, and I kind of lightly threw out there, that's too short for me. And I was like, it obviously isn't, but I was trying to think why I gravitate towards the fulls, and I think it is something to do with that, and it's also like, I'm the guy now that's done several of them, so my goal is to get faster at that distance, and there's so many ways you can do that. I mean, it's such a long day that you can kind of analyze things for hours and hours and hours, and like in a half, you kind of like throw it out there, and it sort of feels like it's over now sometimes. And then, so I keep gravitating towards that. I don't want to go further. I don't want to do 2. I don't want to do, Ultraman or any of that kind of stuff. That just doesn't really do. I want to sort of perfect that distance, because I feel like, I feel like Sean a little bit, where I feel like maybe I am pretty good at the 70.3s, but I don't know. That's a different kind of hard work. And as I get older, I don't want to.
It's a different challenge.
Yeah. It's like, that fast thing. I still, like we were talking about the other day, like I feel like when I go slow in the pool, I feel like my arms are still fast if I need them. Mm-hmm. It's just that to get them to the level to go fast a lot is so risky. Not the arms, but like running more, like fast stuff. I feel like I can still run similar to how I used to run in my 20s, as far as speed goes, but it's for a shorter distance. So I can still do it. It's just a matter of building that up. And then to me, there's always too many risks in that short distance thing.
What do you mean risks?
Well, if,
the temptation to go fast too much.
Yeah.
Too
like
often
I'm always talking to athletes
age.
about that. Exactly. Like, we talk about intervals and stuff like that running. And, again, I still take that same, I used to, when I started the sport, be in that interval and, right out of the gate, like warm up a little bit and then just be like full on. But now I'm really curious about like the 90 percentile or something, really that running under control or swimming under control or biking under control faster, but still without, like getting flaily, because that's when I get hurt or something weird happens.
It's a great word, flaily.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to use that one.
Okay.
No, I like that word. It's you brought up a really great point that I didn't even touch on, in that's also, I think, another interesting piece of endurance sports with how many options you have at certain distances is you can think or believe or have like a hunch, like, I think I'm a better 70.3 athlete. And it could be because you're faster, yet that's just, because we're all built a certain way. Like we're built to be the best at this thing. And then just below that is, the next thing that we're supposed to be really, really good at in terms of like, because I think every athlete, whether they know it or not, and I think oftentimes it's actually not the case. And like, which is, I think, true with what you just said, I think. And also I think myself, in some ways, it's like what we are really best at, or what we could be the best at and perform the best at, isn't always what we like the best. Right? Like, like what you said about 70.3 racing, I think I am easily a better 70.3, built as a better 70.3 racer. Just the way that I'm built, and because I think the swim actually has a much more significant impact in 70.3 racing than it does. And then, cycling is currently my weakest. So, 56 miles, I can still hit it pretty hard and not give up a ton of time, and running is my second. So I think I hang better towards that. Whereas in Ironman, I feel like I can still do well just because I feel like I can, if I'm looking to compare myself against competitors, like, I think my strength there is patience and intelligence. Like, I'm not ever going to be the most talented or most athletic triathlete on the planet, but I do feel like I can split the gap by just being smarter or more patient. And so I find myself gravitating towards that. But then also it's like, is it kind of, if I just like, what am I doing? I want to challenge myself more mentally and emotionally, which would be doing 70.3 racing and trying to really get there? Or would it be, should I challenge myself more physically to do an Ironman? Like where I feel more comfortable in either. And I think that again, endurance sports and triathlon and all the distances that races offer, like, gives you these opportunities to think, well, I think I'm better. I'm like, are you really? Or do you want to like give yourself a different challenge? Because I think a lot of people struggle with Ironman because of how mentally and emotionally demanding the day is. Mm-hmm. They can have all the speed in the world, all the training, but then a lot of people will crumble, right? And I think that's also why some people gravitate towards it, because they think, I can outlast people because I can do this. Like, they might be faster and stronger. They may have trained more, but I know when push comes to shove at like mile 80 of the bike or mile 15 in the run, I'm going to hang on. And then I might surpass them. And so it does, it in every single distance, it allows you an opportunity to challenge yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally. Because one of my biggest, I would say, weaknesses is I told myself this story, and I think it was a story I kind of created when I was swimming around growing up, is that I was never, ever, ever a good 50 meter, 100 meter person. I just wasn't. I was always a person who was the best at like the 200, the 400, even the 800, the mile. I was a distance guy, and so I kind of told myself, like, you're more of a distance guy. And so I got more comfortable. Like, I can go 90% effort all day long. Like, that's my thing. Like, I can do that. I've told myself I can do that. So it's like, therefore you can. But when it comes like 100% all out, just let it rip, I find that that's a weakness of mine. Like, to that top end, like all out of control, I think I'm going to blow up in like any minute. That part is something that I haven't really crafted yet. So, I could work on that. If I wanted to do that for racing, it's like, I think, well, let me do more short course and just try and really push that red line and find it. And that's, like you were saying, like, that's about your, attraction to, longer distance racing. I think you said you thought you also might be like a really, really good, like maybe even a better 70.3, but you like the long, because I think like from just knowing you, I feel like you see it as it kind of falls right into your wheelhouse of like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm going to hang around to the end. And like, when it push comes to shove, like I'm like that annoying gnat, like I'm still going to be here. And that allows you to probably surpass. It's like a different kind of work.
Yeah.
Do I work heavier and harder to be faster at 70.3 physically? Or can I still continue to use that mental and emotional weapon I have that is just stubbornness and resilience and patience to get to where I want to be in longer racing?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And we've talked about my sort of sports background, which is baseball, and I played a little basketball in high school and some hockey, all, explosive, kind of faster, shorter stuff. And to your point about that, I mean, even though you felt like your 100 in swim wasn't that great, or you wasn't your strong suit, it was still 99.999% faster than most people. But like, in the same with my cases, I feel like 70.3 is a more natural place for me. But I'm still not, I was pretty fast, as far as like sprinting to first base or second base, I wasn't like slow, but I wasn't like, top, I wasn't up there. So that's the people you end up facing in 70.3. So like, I feel like I guess what I'm saying is like, I almost feel like I've been closer to my top end in a 70.3 than I have an Ironman. So
I agree with that.
Yeah. So like, you know what I'm saying?
No, again, Mike, you bring up a great point. I also think, as we're talking about like, and I think it's something that maybe I haven't even considered before, or we may haven't even touched on the podcast, is like we talk about, different courses for different horses for different courses. And, I just kind of touched on like, where you see yourself mentally and emotionally is at a current strength. But then it also, I think, lends itself to, like you said, I may have like capped my 70.3 potential much closer than I have my Ironman training potential. And again, that goes back to what you feel your strengths are that you can do and succeed at and accomplish, which if you want to be really, really, really successful at Ironman distance, you have to put in a lot of hours. You have to put in a lot of long rides, a lot of long runs, which means, because like if you've ever trained for a full and you've kind of backed it down to a 70.3, you're like, this is like not training. Like it's like almost feels like it's like cut in half. You're like, I've got all this extra time, I can get all this stuff done. This is nothing. And some people don't operate well with that expectation, or it doesn't fit in their life, or it doesn't fit in their personality or what they want to do. You would be included in that as like putting in weeks and weeks and weeks of 15 to 18 hours and, long bikes to get that, so it kind of is kind of like a Jenga puzzle, and like picking and choosing, like, is this distance a mental strength or a physical strength? Is this race a physical strength or an emotional strength? Or where does the training that I can do and that I want to do fit into my ability to be great at this event? And if you, it's kind of like when you're, back in, middle school, high school, you're like, I like Jill and I like Sally. Let's make a list of all the things I like about Jill and all the things I like about Sally. And that'll let me know who's the one I need to go with, that I need to ask if they'll go with me, and maybe give my class ring or my letter jacket. And you make out this list, and same thing can go for like your capacity to, your mental and emotional and physical capacity or athletic ability, however you want to phrase it. And then you look at each individual distances, sprint, Olympic, 70.3, Ironman, and you think, all right, well, and you kind of put your, mental, emotional, physical, strengths or weaknesses into these different categories, and then demands that each race has, and then also look at the hours that demands to get there. And you can kind of whittle down and kind of rearrange it into measures of success and measures of, what give myself the best chances to be successful if I want to qualify for something, or I want to drop time. I want to be faster at Ironman, but the reality of the situation is that I don't have as much time as I would like to jump to that, next, category, next tier of age group athletes, but I do have the time to do that for 70.3. It doesn't necessarily fit into my, what I feel like are my strengths, but the great thing about endurance sports is that it's all about discovery, right? It's all about growth. And I think every athlete that's been doing this for even a year, or even like 2 or 3 months, or 10 or 15, 20 years, you're always figuring something else out. Like you find more out about yourself as a person than you do an athlete in what we do, because most of our stuff is a journey. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't get faster the next day you wake up. You don't get faster after a week. That's just not how it works. And so I think that it allows you these examples, which are races, to find things. And like, people, again, like, I have athletes like, I'm not good on hills. I'm just not. I'm not a good hill person. You're like, are you sure about that? Like, when did you come to this conclusion? And sometimes it's just like, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm good. So they never do hills, and they always have that attitude of, I'm not good at hills. And then all of a sudden they do a race or they challenge themselves. They're like, oh, it turns out I am kind of good at hills. And it like opens up this whole new category of opportunities to race. And I just think we so oftentimes get caught up in this identity that we've given ourselves that so many times is like either totally wrong, currently, and or insanely outdated. That's like, we came up with this when we were 15, or like myself, like swimming, I'm just always, it was me and Sam Kuykendall, Save Up Sammy. That's what we called him. Save Up Sammy was like the guy, the long distance guy, because he paced himself like the whole time. And then like the last 100, he would just like demolish you because he saved it up. And I was like, but is that still true about me? Like as I was joking with Sean yesterday about, coaching inquiries, and he's like, how back do you go back with people? And it's like, it's amazing how long, we talked about it with professional football teams, is like in college football, how long people can live on past glory. It's like, in past championships, Dallas Cowboys. And so you look at, I had to throw that one in there, Notre Dame and Texas, University of Texas Longhorns. And so USC. And so, but what happens is like, you'll talk to an athlete. It's like, I'm like, so what do you feel like your strengths are? Like, it's like, well, I ran track in high school. I was a really great 400 guy and that's my thing. I'm a short course. Like I'm a runner. I'm like, dude, you're 52. Mm-hmm. You haven't ran in 35 years. Like you're not that guy anymore. I don't know like why we tend to hold on to those things for so incredibly long. The same thing with you. We talked about this maybe a year ago when I was challenging you. I think after Wisconsin, it was about a year ago, on if you truly are a better if cycling is your strength, because you came up familiar with it, you were really, really good at it, and that you just kind of always thought like, this is what I am, this is what I do, and then you end up doing things like, oh, maybe I just thought that because it was familiar. And so that's what I think of how our endurance sports identity is to so many people, is like, it's either totally wrong because you've been looking at the wrong metrics, or you're participating in the wrong races, or you're reading the wrong story, or it's just so outdated that it's time to do a reboot and a refresh and really kind of challenge yourself and explore, what do I really like? What am I really good at? What do I really want to do? What fits my life the best? What am I truly good at, and what kind of time can I carve out to excel in what I'm good at?
Mm-hmm. You had to bring that back up. But I was just thinking about the cycling thing. Is if I look at my training like last year, for example, when I was actually training a lot, and I look at swim, bike, run, the two that I would cut short because of what I said earlier about how I can do it, I can finish it, are cycling and swimming. I always finish my runs, So as you're talking, and that old belief system or whatever, I'm not good at this or whatever. I think I'm good at cycling, but I convince myself that I hate long rides. So it's like, what do you do there? And I was thinking about this the other day, as far as like, I've spent a good chunk of my life trying to be a morning person. And, that's kind of the joke, and I'm okay with it because I am kind of a night person, but it occurred to me that my philosophy in getting up is sort of like, okay, tomorrow I got to wake up early. And I'm going to start this, and then, I'm going to get used to it over a week or two, and then it's just going to be me. But it occurred to me that process becomes a lot easier if you define what you're getting up for, and you find something that you enjoy. And I'm sure you find that. I'm sure lately I just get the sense that you're just like jonesing to wake up and come in and ride, or, get something. You know what I mean? Like, and the reason I bring that up is because I'm sure that was not always you. You know what I mean? Like, I think that just changes the game. And it also changes the game on the front end, as in, hey, I need to go to bed earlier because I want to get up. Or, you know what I mean? Like, so in other words, I'm sort of trying to back my way into the changing things, like instead of going, hey, I got to start going out and riding long, it's just going to be something maybe more simple, as in, hey, I'm going to start riding a little bit more and in ways I like, or whatever, I was on the bike the other day and figuring out what that is. And I don't know, maybe maybe the irony of this whole podcast is going to be that I start getting addicted to numbers. You know what I mean?
That's so true.
Like something that, mm-hmm. that fuels me and is like, makes it more interesting or something like that. And not that I need to like gauge myself that way necessarily, but I'm just looking for ways and reasons to enjoy things that might not otherwise be like my favorite thing to do.
A lot of it's also about like not being such an extremist. In what we live in right now is like a total extreme world. Like everyone is like total. And I was talking about this yesterday with another athlete. I was like, there's a lot of people out there who are like, especially with like we now have so many indoor training devices that it's, it is time saving for a lot of people, but then you become so addicted to inside that you become averse to doing anything outside, or the same could go for outside. It's like, I don't run on the treadmill. I just don't. You're like, okay, I can understand not liking it, but being so extreme that you don't, what happens is you become so averse to like I just won't. Then when the opportunity comes where you're like, well, now you have no other choice, right? Is if you can either not run or you can continue to get better while on said treadmill. Well, people in California who it's like the air quality is absolutely terrible. We got people who live in different parts of the country where it's about to be so cold and so much snow that they can't literally run outside, or it could be getting up too early in the morning. You don't feel safe running outside, or you're traveling or whatever. It's like, I always tell athletes, like, be very well-rounded, be like a Swiss Army knife. Be able to kind of do and be okay doing everything. Like, don't be just a treadmill person. Run outside. Don't be just an outside person. Be able to run on the treadmill, because if you don't, what you're doing is you're totally limiting your ability to continue doing what you love, which is being consistent, because life is going to come and say, hey, I can't do this. Like people were, isolated in quarantine. They're like, I can't even go outside in my neighborhood because of where we live. And it's just going to be indoor riding. And then now it's like, oh, now they don't want to run outside. It's like, you have to continue to expose yourself to so many different opportunities so you don't get so extreme in one way or the other. And the same thing goes for athletes' mentalities about who they are. I'm not a swimmer. Okay, well, you keep saying that, and you also reinforce that by swimming once a week and swimming slowly and telling yourself you can't. So yes, you will become that self-fulfilling prophecy of continuing to be a really crappy swimmer. Or you could say, you know what? Swimming is kind of like my weakness. I'm going to work really, really hard at it and go swim 3 or 4 times a week. And then you might find out that it's something you're really, really good at. I've talked to athletes who are like, I didn't think I was a swimmer. Now it's like my favorite thing to do, which is not something most triathletes say, but it's like, oh, I missed this.
Yeah, but they do sometimes.
Yeah. Like
when they get into it.
When they get into it, which is also the thing. It's like, is being just generally open. And that's, again, like a societal problem we have, is that like everyone is so closed-minded, and again, like there's general things that we should all kind of agree on, which is like don't kill people and be nice, and don't be a dick. Like we should all pretty much agree on those. But there's a lot of things where it's kind of like we're so closed off to hearing anyone that we don't learn anything. And that's the same thing with training and triathlon and how many opportunities we have to swim and bike and run and do nutrition. Like I don't do solids on the bike, or I don't do this. I'm a low carb guy. I don't do things like that. We basically shield ourselves off from any other experience or knowledge or wisdom that we could soak in through the months and years that we participate in sport to make ourselves an all-around better athlete. And if you do that, you're missing on opportunities. It's the same thing as I'm just a runner, or I'm not a great cyclist, or I can only do these kind of races, or I've got to find a downstream swim. It's like you're never going to reach your potential. You're just going to reinforce who you've already told yourself you are. But if we've ever learned anything in life, and I think we've all been in this case, we always see ourselves so much differently than other people see us. People are like, but you're so great. I'm like, really? Like, I don't think that's like a strength of mine. And like, it's very interesting. I think the story, like if we all walk around with our own book of like how we see ourselves in our lives, and the things that are our strengths or what our weaknesses are, and then everyone else has the same book about you in their pocket. And if I walked up to you, Mike, down the street, and you're like, hey, what's your book say about me? We'd read our same book, the way I think about myself and the way you think about me. Maybe not us, we're a great example because we're best friends, but like most people, they would be a little bit of the same, but a lot of it would be very different. You would see strengths in me that I'm like, no, I don't see that at all, period. Same thing goes for weaknesses, stuff like that, And I just think it's very interesting that, and how much that impacts us as athletes and how we train, just the way that we see ourselves. And that's why you need someone, accountability, a training partner, a coach, or whatever, to be like, listen, man, like that's not you. Like I understand that is who you see yourself as, but if you keep doing that, then you're never going to go to the next level. And I'm not talking about going pro. I'm talking about being the best Mike Torelli you can be, because you just like keep sitting in the same Mike Torelli mold, because that's just where most of us are comfortable. It's like we're all comfortable with our weaknesses too, because we know them. We can defend our weaknesses, with better than anyone, because we're always on the ready for them. But when someone else is like, that's a weakness, you're like, whoa, I wasn't prepared for that. Like, no. Same thing with strengths. We get uncomfortable, like, that's not a strength of mine. I got more stuff to work on. I think it's a very interesting, like, psychological, discussion about how much of that impacts the way that we train, the races that we pick, and, the things that we choose to do.
Yeah, I think that's huge, man. And going back to that stuff you learn when you're a kid, you have the strengths and weaknesses. And I think that they vary for most triathletes. I mean, I think you go through a season and you'll see that it's like, I'm really into the swim now, or I'm I'm really feeling the bike, and maybe that wasn't a strength before, now it is, but how mentally difficult it may be to get into this idea of making swim fun or whatever. So it's tough, and I do love what you said about the flexibility to train different places. I've been swimming in the endless pool a lot lately, and in my mind, I'm like, I can't wait to get back into a regular pool to see what's going on here, or to get in open water to see what's going on. And that's a lot of the reason why, and I mean, to me, like the indoor stuff is like undeniably something that, especially everything, I think it just really, it really is that thing that works on your consistency in your strokes and your pedal stroke and your run stride. I think it really kind of like forces you to fine tune stuff like that a little bit and gets you in that cadence. And, it's easier to play around with things like cadence and stuff like that because you can control it. And the same with the endless pool. But that's, like why I like to, in between that, I always just go out on my mountain bike and ride around because that's cycling to me. It's handling, it's being in elements. It's just sort of like feeling the wind and all that kind of stuff. And I do think that that's a great thing because I lean towards outside with everything. But when you said that, I was sitting there going, yeah, I know. Cause I feel like, running on a treadmill, even if it was just once a week for me, would be a good exercise because it's a different kind of hard, that's the thing about a trainer too. It's a different kind of hard because you can let up outside, but there's stuff outside that's harder than inside because the terrain is just like fluctuates and you have to be able to deal with that. And I think a lot of times, I think that's what comes down to hurting people is they eliminate the outside so much or they don't have the back. Because we've seen it all the time. It's like you can be a great cyclist on a trainer, but then when you get out there and you can't handle the road or the turns or the gravel or whatever the case may be, or people around you, then that kind of just like mentally gets in your head and that upsets your race and then it becomes a struggle. So I think both sides of that, I think that is a really, really solid point that, people should pay attention to because there's great stuff in both.
We all like to measure and continue to perfect what we're really, really comfortable with. Mm-hmm. That is what we stick to. It's like, I'm just, like you don't like to challenge yourself on different terrain or see there's so many benefits in running on different terrain, but very few people do it. Because it affects their pace on their watch and it's like, they have a hard time managing. Like that's a spiel that I'll have to give tonight to our trail runners to be like, listen, you just might as well put your watch away. You can hit time, you can hit the start, hit the stop, but if you're going to stare at your pace, you're going to be discouraged because trail running is significantly harder, especially if you're a flatlander, you listen where it's pancake flat, you're going to run on the hills here. And not only is it going to be hilly, but it's harder to run on trails because it's not concrete or pavement. It's harder to create the same amount of force and get the same amount of force back from that you do when you impact the ground. It's also the satellite reception is always totally out of whack. And also the course that we're going to be on, they're going to be ups and downs and curves. You're going to be slowing down, speeding up, just disregard, and go with pace and effort. But there are also so many benefits of doing something by, we always tell our athletes, choose the hilly route, definitely don't just ignore them, do them. They have benefits. They are good for you. They're great for overall strength and endurance and durability. Same with trail running. It's good for you to channel actually moving east and west. Which most athletes really really struggle with. They're like, no, I'm straightforward. I don't do east and west. It slows me down. I'm going to pull something or whatever. It's there's so you just have to be. And it's even if you look at any professional athlete and what they do in the off season is they're on their cyclocross bike, they're on their gravel bike, they're on their mountain bike. They're just doing different things. Yes, it's because, and again, but the same things get old over and over. You're then you get burnt out. I just can't do the trainer anymore because all you've done is the trainer. That's it. When you go overboard any direction, you're going to get to a point to where you're going to say, I've had it. I'm done. Right. And that's the thing is if you're not comfortable changing things up, then that's just who you're going to become. And then you're going to hate that version. And then you're going to be like, now I'm screwed. Now I have to go on this hiatus with the sport because I don't even know what I want to do or what I want to be because I've filled up that room. I'm closing it. I'm doing something different. And so if you can just change things up and experiment and find out, you'll probably find out that you love so many more things than you thought you did. You'll probably find out that you are better at so many different sports or distances or types of races with different terrain that you probably thought you were. And that's what we're supposed to do. Like the sport is like, we get into so many things because we want to be challenged and we want to grow. And then at a certain point, and you can't ever pinpoint, it's like, well, now that we kind of get to it, now we just kind of want to know what we know. You know, we don't want to challenge ourselves or do anything different. We just kind of want to be comfortable. And like I've had, you know, experiences like that with athletes that have come to me with coaching, and I coach them for a week and they're like, no, I just want you to coach me the way I want to be coached and do what I want to do. I just want you to kind of let me do that. I'm like, well, that's not really how this works. Like, you know, like it's totally up. But that's what we do. We want people to allow us to always do what we're most comfortable with because it's easy and because it doesn't stress us, not in a negative stress, but doesn't challenge us to grow and be like, well, you just need to figure it out and challenge yourself because you just don't know, because all you've done is the exact same thing all the time. And it's funny. Like if you ask athletes they're not hard questions. You just simply ask them questions like, well, why do you think that? Well, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, that's not really a good enough reason. You know, like let's dive in deeper. Like, when did you start thinking this, or why do you feel like this is a good idea? Or maybe it's like we get so set in doing our own thing all the time because we feel like that's the way to be successful. And, you know, in a lot of ways it is, but it's all up until the point to where it becomes, you know, something that prevents you from doing things that you're probably going to be really, really good at, or just finding joy in doing different things in general. I couldn't agree more, man.
I couldn't agree more, man. Yeah, man.
We are the opposite of the contradictory vitriol podcast.
I know. Let me see if I can disagree with something.
Yeah, like there. Actually, I think you're.
It is something that's interesting when you think about coaching, though. It's like that is the thing, right? And we see it all the time when we've seen it like hundreds of times, I think, throughout our camps and whatever else we put on, and we're always doing something, it seems like, and. People are always like, I didn't think I could do that, or I never did that before. And we're just kind of out working out, you know, and it sort of just kind of falls within the realm of our schedule of something that wasn't targeted towards a certain person in any way. And we don't think about it a lot, I'm sure we do, but sometimes we just don't know, you know, maybe that someone's never done X open water swim or they've never run in a trail like that, or never. And a lot of times we see it in the runs of our tri camps with the elevation. Like a lot of people aren't used to, you know, we go out to, we've been going out to Nashville, and there's a park out there that has tremendous elevation, and we end up running that after riding a lot of hills. So, and a lot of people don't have the opportunity to necessarily mix those two things, or quote unquote be forced to do those things back to back, you know.
That's what it is. It's like,
it's sort of like you have to break through that, right? Like, because then, like I was saying, you know, like when people do that, then it just changes the whole paradigm for them. And how do you get there without someone kind of pulling you along, or, you know, a group of people pulling you along? And that's usually what it is. And it's like training with people. Everyone says it's like the greatest thing, but it's like it's like a lot of us just want to hang out in our own corner of the club and not talk to anybody.
It's a give and take, even with groups, is because a lot of people only run with the same group of ladies or the same group of guys that always want to run the same pace and the same time. And like, well, dude, no offense, but only one of you is getting better, because only one of you is at the ideal pace and effort that you need to be. The rest of you are just doing what they're doing because it's comfortable and it's easy. Like that's, any group is that way, you know. And it's nothing wrong with group training. It's just like, it's fun. But the way that it needs to be is like, well, group training should take you out of self. Right, the things that we wrap our brains around, you know, that we can't wrap our brains around doing, but we do it without thinking, because if you're alone, you're gonna do what's comfortable. But if it's like that positive peer pressure that we need with groups, that like, oh well, if it was me by myself, I'm not doing this. You know, it's like we worked really hard trying to get Hayden to like do swim with just me and Allie, and he was so anti-swim. Like, I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it. And I was like, fine, if you want to do it, I'm not gonna make you do it. Like, we'll just stop. And then he now swims at daycare like once a week. And the first day we were like, I wonder how it's going to go. And they were like, he absolutely loves it.
Oh yeah.
It's that positive peer pressure with all his classmates on the side of the pool. He was just not going to do it. So he finally exposed to it. Now he loves it. Now all he wants to do is swim. And so that's the positive part, or positive peer pressure, that I think is so good with groups, is it takes us out of self, the things that we're scared of, the things that we think about ourselves, the stories that we tell ourselves. And we're just like, hell, they're doing it. might as well, it's like, right. And then in the middle of that, you find yourself in the middle of a long ride or the middle of a hard run, and you're looking around other people and you're like, oh, I'm here. I'm kind of hanging out. This is kind of cool. Maybe I can do this. And then just like we had an athlete this last weekend who Eileen, where she got done with it and she was like, I'm kind of worried because now I feel like I can't hide from you anymore. And I was like, you damn well right you can't, because you see, like when you put yourself out there and you see someone do things and you're not underachieving. There's just so much more that we can drag out of you. And now that you've seen it in person and we've witnessed it, it's like, yeah, there is kind of like no more hiding from it. But you just open up another door and you open up another opportunity to like be we need those kind of things in life, those positive reinforcements that whether it's group peer pressure to get us to do things we don't want to, or it's challenging yourself in a different way, or it's attacking a different style workout, or, hopping on a different kind of bike, or running on a different, road or trail, or swimming in open water instead of a pool, or choosing to swim hard versus swim easy. Like if you don't do those things, then you're just going to continue to be who you are all the time. And then you're going to get tired of that person. You're probably just going to stop and maybe figure out something else. It's just the sport itself is meant to challenge us. It's meant to make us grow. It's not meant to be easy. And so if you find yourself an athlete of the day who's just been running and she, outstandingly enough was like, I'm getting too comfortable. It's time to get back in the pool. Like she was like, I'm in too much of an easy groove. I'm not feeling challenged. I don't feel like I'm growing enough anymore because we stopped doing triathlon specific training. Now we've just been running. And she was just like, training a 7.3, I'm in. I can't get complacent in life because you're not doing anything. You're not going anywhere. It's like my grandpa would say, like, don't stand in the middle, don't stand in the doorway, because you're not going anywhere. You're not coming from anywhere. And that's what athletes get into, is they get into that phase of, I'm not getting better. I'm not getting worse. I'm just hanging out with who I am, but that's okay with me because I'm comfortable there. You got to be pushing the boundaries of not doing it in a dangerous way, but just get out and explore and find different things by yourself. Because if you're not doing that, then you're shortchanging endurance sports in general and the opportunities that it provides us. And if you're healthy enough to do it and you have the time to do it and you're not utilizing that time and opportunity, then one day when you want to do it, you're not going to be able to. You're going to be too hurt to do so, or your life is going to say, hey, is going to dictate that you can't. And so you've got to take advantage of those times and don't be comfortable and don't be complacent, but continue to challenge yourself in ways that maybe you're not comfortable with. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. When I talk to people about, what I do and they can't fathom it and things like that, and I always say, go watch a race, go check out an Ironman. You won't believe it. Like you'll see it and it'll be like, holy crap, how do people do this? But you'll see people doing it. You're actually there and you are physically in connection with these people that look like you, feel like you, whatever. They might be in the similar boat as you or whatever. And you're like, man, well, that'll just open your eyes. And I think a lot of us tend to, get caught up in watching things on video or something like that, these amazing feats and things like that. And like, it's not visceral really. It's sort of like this, it's like, well, that's somebody out there doing that. But I know, like, as somebody who's spent a good chunk of their life behind the camera, that stuff's rarely real. It doesn't really give the true indicator of what's going on. We were talking about this the other day about how like, the difference between like, polished video presentation versus just a raw thing. And I think like our podcast is raw in that sense. It's not like we don't have like topics and agendas and all this kind of stuff. And we're not forcing ourselves in a hole, and we just sort of organically come through it. And I think that to me, that is more reality. And I think when you get to see a race or you get to see somebody, do something that really kind of connects with you. And it's something that it's just very important as far as like finding out and believing that you can do something, because it goes deeper than triathlon training. It's your life. And I mean, look at what we've done with this thing. I mean, we just got into the mud and just started doing it. And so many things are possible if you want to do them these days. I feel like there's opportunities to make things work, and there's technology that helps you get it done and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a matter of getting in there and breaking through that. It's sort of like the class reunion effect. No one ever wants to go, but when they get there, it's, these people, everybody's in the same boat. We're all just doing this. And triathlon is a lot of that, it's people just kind of out there doing stuff. And once you see it, you start to see yourself kind of maybe as that type of person. And you can, I feel it's limitless if we can sort of take those. Well, like in the video I made actually the other day with Maurice, yeah, he said there's a saying I like, big things
come from small beginnings.
Yeah. To me that I just really love that, because it's sort of like we can't get there now. I mean, where we are, when we had that first meeting, I mean, we kind of saw it. I think we believed in what was going on, and now it's sort of like manifested, and we feel real good about it. But that's about as small as a beginning as you can get, man. 2 guys sitting in a coffee shop with barely enough money to buy a cup of coffee.
That's the truth. That is, and small example, and probably close it on that, is like I'm definitely not the greatest, but like if you would have told me 5 or 6 years ago, you'd be like, yeah, you'll have a podcast and you'll feel pretty comfortable, talking for an hour and letting people listen to it, and you're fine getting up and speaking in public, it'd be like, you're out of your damn mind. Mm-hmm. No, that's not me. That's not what I do. I'm not good at that, and I'm not great at it now, but I do twice a week podcast and have for 4 years. I do a weekly Zoom meeting. Like, I stand up and talk in public all the time. I'm like, and I feel fairly comfortable with it. But if I had have just not done those things and done this, I would have always been like, no, that's just not for me. You don't really ever know what's for you, because it always changes. Yeah. Make something for you. Like you've made this podcast for you, and we appreciate it.
Yep.
We'll be doing trail camp the next few days, but if you have any questions, comments, concerns, still email us. We might not get back to you as swiftly as we usually do, but if you have any questions about anything at all, you can reach out to Mike directly, crushingiron@gmail.com. If you have any questions for me specifically, I'm at C26coach@gmail.com. If you want to go head over to our website, the C26 Triathlon. That's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. And also, you can click on the coaching tab, scroll down, and you can check out our club program, which is incredibly popular right now. Mike is heading that up, and he will tell you a little bit more about it right now.
Oh, yeah. So the club program is basically we're going to set you up for 2021. If you got races planned or ideas for races, you'll just kind of put them out there on the schedule, and we fill in everything around it. We also give you access to our membership community, which is the online hub, which is loaded with great resources. We're going to do Zoom calls and team events and all kinds of different great bonuses that you get from joining the club. And we're going to take care of that for $349 a year. It's going to be a limited sign up right now. It's up there on the homepage. There's a banner, and like he said, if you click on coaching and drop down to the club, you can find out more about that. And we've got a bunch of information on there about it. And I look forward to working with a lot of people. It's like you said, it's already taken off really well, and good group, and we're gonna have a great community in the club. And
very good group, yeah. Just let us plan your year, and that's the biggest headache people have, is like they have races, and it's difficult for people to prioritize around that. And we'll use the same training philosophy and outline and structure that I'll do, and we'll just hey, let us plan the year for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've got we're in the hub down here in Chattanooga, and the video I mentioned earlier is a gentleman who came in and had a full day experience, and you can see that video and see what the hub's all about. I put the video on the homepage at C26triathlon.com. It's also under the hub tab if you want to check that out and see what we're all about down here. Other than that,
or up here, or over here.
Up here, over here.
In Chattanooga. That's all I need to know. It's been a pleasure. As always, have a wonderful weekend. Stay happy, stay healthy, and good luck to everyone participating in all the races, especially the Ironman Tempe 70.3 that is going on Sunday.
I couldn't agree more.
All right, dude. See you.